So from Pick n Pay's unlikely golden goose and Temu's latest threat, to local schools still handing out illegal beatings and Verstappen confirming where he'll be racing next. Today's show is all about rule breakers, quiet overachievers, and the choices that changed everything. My friends, this is Daily Bagel, the 8-minute head start you didn't know you needed. Let's get into it. And kicking us off with current affairs, 28 years after it was banned, corporal punishment is still alive and well in South African classrooms. And KZN is the epicenter here. A basic education report found that 19.1% of KZN pupils were beaten by teachers in 2023, the highest rate in the country. Nationally, almost 7% of pupils reported the same thing. So this issue flared up again this week after the principal of Osborne Secondary in the Eastern Cape was suspended for allegedly beating a grade 12 student after her parents hadn't paid the $2,000 fee for an upcoming school trip. The girl's injured hand has gone viral, sparking national outrage. So government says that this upcoming Bella Act will help here as it makes corporal punishments a criminal offense and expects schools to open up cases against teachers who assault pupils. So some argue that the problem is that many teachers still fall back to the ways that they were taught how to discipline and that they need better training for, non-violent disciplinary methods. Others say it's just an excuse, that the law's been clearly in place for nearly 3 decades, and that the real issue is that teachers think it is justified to lay their hands on children. And on to our quick fire mentions. Traffic cops in Cape Town dished out dozens of fines in a single day for drivers not carrying a valid license. Now, officials warn that digital copies or photographs aren't accepted and have urged drivers to always keep physical cards or proof of renewal on hand. And South African Airways will launch its first ever direct Cape Town to Mauritius route this December with 3 weekly flights. From mid-January to March, the schedule is set to drop to 2 flights per week during the low season. And on to our finance section. Temu is in some serious trouble in Europe. Regulators say that the platform, famously known for ultra-cheap gadgets and clothing, hasn't done nearly enough to stop illegal or unsafe products from flooding its marketplace. So a European Commission probe found that users are, and I quote, very likely to come across non-compliant items like unregulated electronics and baby toys that don't meet the basic safety standards. Now, EU regulators found that Temu's risk assessments weren't tailored to its own marketplace and ignored the real dangers on its platform. So this investigation falls under the EU's Tough Digital Services Act, which forces big tech to protect consumers or face major penalties. Now, if Temu is found in breach, it could be fined up to 6% of its global turnover, which is a staggering figure for a company of its size. So why should South Africans care? Because Temu only launched in Europe in 2023 but already has nearly 94 million monthly users and is rapidly winning over South Africans too. And with the same products landing here, the EU's safety concerns, whether justified or not, should raise real questions about what we're buying. And next up, Boxer is quietly eating Pick n Pay's lunch, but at least is doing it from inside the family. You see, the KZN-based value retailer was spun out and listed on the JSE last year, raising billions for Pick n Pay, which still owns 65%. So while Pick n Pay's core supermarkets are still battling through this messy turnaround, Boxer is on a tear. Turnover jumped 12.1% in just 17 weeks, with like-for-like sales still rising even in a low-inflation, cash-strapped market. So the playbook for them is pretty simple. Cheap prices, relentless promotions, and rapid expansion. Boxer opened 7 new superstores and 10 liquor outlets in 4 months, and is now aiming for 60 more this financial year. It even tweaked how it reports inflation, done in a way that strips out the effect of promotions and product swaps, giving a cleaner picture of the real everyday prices. So for everyday shoppers, Boxer is becoming the go-to for stretching the rand. For investors though, it's the part of Pick n Pay that's actually delivering, proof that this so-called budget brand is the one quietly carrying the group. And on to our quick fire mentions. Oil prices dip below $70 a barrel as traders worry about global growth. You see, this drop followed an EU-US trade agreement that imposed a 15% tariff on most EU goods, while committing Europe to hundreds of billions of dollars in US energy purchases. And Heineken Beverages, the group behind some of South Africa's biggest beer, wine, and ready-to-drink brands, is still battling falling sales. Now, Amstel is still helping to steady its beer market share, while Bernini's growth offsets sharp declines in wine and cider. And on to our sports section. This one's for the petrol heads. Max Verstappen's future with Red Bull has been one of the paddock's favorite guessing games this season, but the speculation seems to be over, at least for now. You see, after finishing third at the Belgian Grand Prix, Verstappen is guaranteed a top 3 spot in the standings before the summer break. Now, this is interesting because this locks him into Red Bull for 2026 because of a clause in his contract that would have let him walk if he had slipped outside the top 3. So the Mercedes team has been circling Max, with boss Toto Wolff openly keen on the sport's biggest star. But with these seats already filled by George Russell and rising prodigy Kimi Antonelli, Verstappen was always a long shot move for next year. So for Red Bull, keeping Max is huge. I mean, the team is now entering a new era under boss Laurent Mekies after Christian Horner's abrupt exit, and now Verstappen, who's already a 4-time world champion, is central to its plans as F1 switches to new engine regulations in 2026. Furthermore, keeping Verstappen means that Red Bull gets to hold on to the one driver that the whole team is built around, even if McLaren's Oscar Piastri now looks like the man most likely to dethrone him. And on to our quick-fire mentions. Mamelodi Sundowns kick off the new PSL season, chasing an unprecedented clean sweep of trophies. Orbit College, meanwhile, are just hoping to survive their first top flight campaign after promotion through last year's season's playoffs. And South Africa's Peter Coetze has just won gold in the men's 100-meter backstroke at the World Championships in Singapore. The 21-year-old, already Africa's record holder, powered home in 51.85 seconds to claim his biggest career title yet. And before we continue, here is your Bagel Bite of the day. Which country exported the most wine in 2024 by total dollar value? Was it A, France, B, Italy, or C, South Africa? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show. And on to our wildcard section. This is another historical South African story. We're going to keep it this way for the rest of the week. So on June 1st, 1773, a Dutch East India ship, the De Jong Thomas, smashed into a sandbank in Table Bay. Now sailors were clinging to the wreck in the icy Atlantic water, while the onlookers watched helplessly from the shore, believing that any rescue attempt would have been suicidal. But you see, one man didn't just watch. Volrod Voldemort, a 65-year-old retired soldier and local dairyman, got on his horse and rode straight out into the waves. He went back and forth 7 times, hauling 14 men to safety. But on his 8th trip, panicked sailors grabbed at him and his exhausted horse. They were both dragged underwater and drowned before reaching shore. So Voldemort's bravery shocked the Cape. The Dutch East India Company named a ship after him, and even today, South Africa's highest civilian bravery medals still carry his name. An ordinary man on an ordinary day who gave his life to save strangers and became one of the Cape's greatest heroes. And as for that Bagel Bite, the answer is France, by a country mile. I mean, according to the world's top exports, France shipped out $12.7 billion worth of wine in 2024, more than any other country. As for South Africa though, we surprisingly didn't even crack the top 10, coming in 11th with about $648 million in wine exports for the year. I know, probably the first time that the French have ever topped us in anything. And my friends, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, this is your weekly reminder that if you prefer your news on the go, whether you're running, driving, cycling, whatever, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Links to both of those are either in our description or our bio. Hope you guys have a cracker Wednesday. Be kind to one another, and I'll see you all same time tomorrow. Cheers.